Before we start, subscribe because feeling like a fraud isn't a flaw, it's proof you're performing at the highest level. And what I'm about to reveal is something almost no one will ever tell you about high-achieving women. I'm a psychologist who has spent 15 years studying high-achieving women. I've coached leaders in business, art, science, and research. In private conversations, many of them told me something surprising. Despite awards, promotions, and respect, they often feel like frauds. They quietly believe that one day people will discover they don't truly belong. Because of this feeling, successful women work longer hours than necessary. They over-prepare for meetings, replay conversations in their minds, and treat every achievement as luck. On the outside, they appear confident and polished. On the inside, they fear being exposed. This hidden pattern damages decision-making, reduces risk-taking, and creates burnout even when goals are achieved. When I began analyzing this pattern, the same thoughts appeared again and again. Women would say, "I just got lucky," or "someone smarter could replace me." Instead of seeing skill, they credited coincidence. Praise felt uncomfortable. Success felt temporary. I kept asking myself the same question: how can someone with a history of achievements still feel like an outsider? Research revealed something important. Imposter thoughts rarely appear in people who struggle the most. They appear in people who perform at the highest level. Many women who lead companies, publish books, and influence their industries quietly experience this doubt. The higher the achievement, the stronger the risk. The issue is not ability. The issue is how the mind interprets success and failure. After years of research and coaching, I found 5 mental patterns that create imposter feelings in high-performing women. Understanding these patterns is the first step to breaking them. The first pattern is what I call the win-loss effect. In this pattern, the mind minimizes victories while magnifying mistakes. When something goes well, the brain quickly explains it away. Maybe the project was easy. Maybe the team carried the work. Maybe the timing was perfect. Skill disappears from the explanation. Studies in cognitive psychology show that the brain constantly interprets results to update beliefs about competence. In people with imposter thoughts, that system becomes biased. Success is attributed to outside forces, while failure is blamed on personal flaws. Surveys show that nearly 70% of high-achieving women credit external factors for their success, but internal factors for mistakes. One simple exercise that helps is evidence writing. Each day, write one situation where you used a real skill. Be specific. Instead of writing, "I did well in the meeting," write, "I structured the discussion and addressed difficult questions clearly." Over time, this trains the brain to connect success with ability. A deeper method is the achievement review. Look back through your career and list every meaningful win, problem solved, projects led, conflicts managed, ideas implemented. The goal is to build clear evidence that contradicts the belief of being a fraud. I once coached a technology director named Sarah, who managed a team of 50 people. She designed the strategy that guided her company's biggest product launch. Yet she believed the success came only from her team. When she completed a full achievement review, she finally saw the leadership, planning, and decisions that made the project possible. For the first time, she accepted that her skill mattered. The second pattern is the must-be-perfect trap. Many people think perfectionism comes from ambition. In reality, it often comes from fear. The belief is simple: if my work contains even one mistake, people will discover I don't deserve this role. Psychologists believe this pattern sometimes begins in childhood, when praise focuses only on results instead of effort. If approval arrives only when performance is flawless, the brain learns that mistakes threaten acceptance. Over time, the standard becomes impossible. Research suggests that about 70% of high-achieving women show strong perfectionistic thinking. They double-check emails repeatedly, delay sharing ideas, and spend far more time on tasks than necessary. One practice that weakens this pattern is controlled imperfection. Choose small situations where you intentionally allow work to be good rather than perfect. Send the email after one review. Share an idea before it is fully polished. The goal is to teach the brain that minor flaws do not destroy credibility. Another powerful exercise is the learning from loss list. Write down past mistakes, failed projects, rejected ideas, and difficult moments. Next to each one, write what you gained: experience, resilience, or insight. When people do this exercise seriously, they usually discover that growth followed nearly every setback. A finance executive named Emma once told me she spent hours rewriting simple reports because she feared one small mistake would expose her. When she created a loss list, she noticed dozens of moments where mistakes had actually improved her skills. That realization slowly reduced the pressure to be perfect. The third pattern is what I call the comparison illusion. In the age of social media and constant visibility, it is easy to compare your internal struggles with someone else's highlight reel. You see another successful woman presenting confidently or launching a project and assume she never experiences doubt. Psychologists describe this as a visibility bias. We see the public results of others, but the private worries of ourselves. Research shows that most high-performing women believe their peers feel more confident than they do, even though many peers secretly report the same doubts. A helpful strategy is reality searching. When you admire someone's career, look for interviews or talks where they discuss challenges and failures. These stories reveal that nearly every successful person has faced insecurity. Another strategy is reframing comparison into curiosity. Instead of asking, "Why is she better than me?" ask, "What steps did she take that I can learn from?" This simple shift transforms comparison from a threat into a source of growth. I worked with an artist named Mel who had millions of followers online. She believed every other creator possessed more talent than she did. When she began having honest conversations with other artists she admired, she discovered that many of them struggled with the same fears. That discovery completely changed how she interpreted her own self-doubt. The fourth pattern is the competence paradox. As knowledge increases, awareness of complexity also increases. Beginners often feel confident because they don't yet see how much there is to learn. Experts see the full landscape of a field, including unanswered questions and unsolved problems. Psychologists sometimes describe this shift as the Dunning-Kruger reversal. Low experience can create false confidence, while high expertise can produce careful self-evaluation. Unfortunately, the brain sometimes misreads this awareness as evidence of incompetence. One practical tool here is skill mapping. Write down the specific abilities you have developed over the years: technical knowledge, leadership, communication, strategy, or research skills. Then separate them from areas where you are still learning. This exercise reminds the brain that awareness of limitations is not weakness. It is a sign of real expertise. A scientist I coached, Olivia, felt she lacked ability because she constantly noticed unsolved questions in her research field. Younger researchers seemed more confident than she did. When she created a detailed skill map, she realized she had mastered multiple complex areas, including analysis, grant writing, and team leadership. The realization helped her see that awareness of complexity was actually proof of experience. The final pattern is the self-doubt loop. This is the deepest level of imposter thinking. It is not just a single thought, but a core belief about identity. The belief quietly says, "I am not truly capable." When this belief exists, the mind filters information in ways that reinforce it. Success is explained away as luck. Criticism becomes proof of failure. Compliments feel insincere. Evidence that contradicts the belief is ignored. Neuroscience research shows that our beliefs about ourselves shape how the brain processes information. When a belief is repeated often enough, the brain builds strong pathways that automatically reinforce it. Breaking this loop requires deliberate attention. The first step is thought tracking. Notice the automatic explanations that appear after success or failure. Write them down and identify the belief behind them. The second step is belief replacement. Choose a new identity statement based on evidence. For example, "I create results through skill and effort," or "I belong in the rooms where I work." Repeat this belief and actively collect proof that supports it. One executive I coached had spent years believing she succeeded only because colleagues liked her personality. Through belief replacement, she began focusing on her analytical decisions and strategic insights. Over several months, the old story lost strength as new evidence accumulated. Understanding these 5 patterns does not erase self-doubt overnight. However, it changes how you interpret that feeling. Doubt does not always signal weakness. Often it appears when people are operating at high levels and confronting complex challenges. When you recognize the win-loss effect, the must-be-perfect trap, the comparison illusion, the competence paradox, and the self-doubt loop, you begin to see the system behind imposter thoughts. You realize that many successful women experience the same patterns. Most importantly, you discover that these thoughts are not permanent truths. They are habits of interpretation that can be changed. By collecting evidence of your skill, allowing imperfect work, learning from comparison, mapping your competence, and replacing limiting beliefs, the internal story slowly shifts. Over time, the voice that once said, "I don't belong here," becomes quieter. A different voice begins to emerge, one grounded in reality and experience. It reminds you that achievement did not happen by accident. If you have ever felt that your success was only luck, or that someday others might discover you are not good enough, remember this: those thoughts are far more common among capable people than you might imagine. They are not proof of being a fraud. They are often proof that you are pushing into new levels of growth. And once you understand how these mental patterns work, you gain the ability to change them. This awareness allows confidence to grow slowly but steadily, based not on perfection, but on evidence, learning, and real contribution. By practicing these strategies, you can slowly quiet self-doubt, recognize your true skills, and let your confidence grow, not from perfection, but from real accomplishment. If this video helped you see yourself differently, hit subscribe and join us, because understanding these patterns is the first step to owning your success.